We're all in totally different locations, and yet we're all in the same space right now. And we also, in a very beautiful way, overcome the conditions of time. For some of us, it's the middle of the night. For some of us, it's morning. In a way, we're through this simple technology, we are showing where we are connected, and it's a gross form of psychic, the internet, but we're showing where we are connected irrespective of space and time, that this connection is always here. The wires and the cables and the wireless and the satellites, they just facilitate the connection which is always here beyond space and time. This in a mysterious way gives an incredible boost to the possibility of going inside. It's not only for Facebook and selling stuff and tracking people's personal privacy that the internet is good. It's also good for really opening the almost telepathic feeling connection between ourselves and others who are scattered far away, different time zones, different continents. In a way, we're all always here now, connected. In opening that way inside, it naturally facilitates a movement into those aspects which are much less conditioned or caught by the time of day or the space that we're in, or even the space that we believe we've got. Those aspects include many, many beautiful parts of what we find when we come into the here and now. A scent of freedom, the possibility of letting go, a kind of relaxation into a space which isn't caught up in, if I do this, then this will happen, and if I don't do this, then this will happen, and all the stress that's created around what we do and what we don't do, especially around what we don't do. There's that stuff which we are supposed to do, but somehow we can't bring ourselves to do it. This is like stress crunching stuff, the jobs we haven't done, but we think we should do. So it moves us behind that. It shows us there's a place to go, which is behind stress, which is a little bit contrary, because we would think that the internet gives us stress, but it doesn't have to be like that. Not when we are mastering it rather than it controlling us. So in choosing the theme of peace, what we're doing is leveraging the inner space, which is ours as our birthright, in order to allow tools like the internet, or our minds, or our personalities, or our bodies, or whatever the tool is, to be of service to us, rather than us being the slaves of it. So there's a lot going on online in terms of this kind of movement of possibility of togetherness inside, to a place where the boundaries break down between one individual and another, and where it's not sticky, it doesn't entangle, it doesn't grasp. It is what it is in the moment, and what it is in the moment in the first place is our direct experience of being alive and present now. You know, in a way, the computer screen that we look at is an extension of our brain. The brain is the same thing. You know, if you take off the energy source, it's a dead piece of plastic and glass and fiberglass and wiring. It's the energy that brings it to life. It's the information that brings it to life. It's the light that brings it to life. It's the connectivity that fills it up, which brings it to life. And behind all of that connectivity, there is something which is at the source of ourselves existing. So when we talk about meditating on peace, the reflex is to kind of feel, okay, peace is something other than what I am. Peace is a thing, and I'm going to meditate on it. I'm going to sit on some peace, or have a bath in some peace, or as if it's something separate. And then what can happen is that for some people who are often the most peaceful people you would meet, they say, I can't find peace, because they're looking for something other than what they are. It's like an eyeball looking for itself. Can the eye see itself? Can peace feel itself as separate, ultimately? So this means that in moving towards peace, we're not really moving towards it at all. We're actually letting go of stuff which is blinding us or desensitizing us or clouding the peace which is always here. Close, 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 close to just being here as some living presence. It's not other, it's intimate. It's closer inside than our own loved ones, than our parents, even than how we view our children. So in a way, to be in peace with others in our environment or around us is to be in a much greater unity with, because they're also that. They are also in peace. So this is the beautiful movement where you go inside and you actually become closer to what we thought were the people on the outside. We go inside, which can look like a retreat, but actually, as we move deeper inside and become more intimate with our own being, people, even our nearest and dearest, emerge out of that, as opposed to being seen on the horizon of, as other, this one and this one and this one. They kind of, you're able to contact them on the inside, to merge with them, to be in that same peace together with them. Now, a lot of relationships begin to get into trouble because this peace is ignored, this peace which is always there. It's taken for granted. I want the object which I can hold on to and change and form and which satisfies my needs, as opposed to resting back in that unity which is between ourselves and our beloved, which is between ourselves and a tree, or ourselves and an animal, or ourselves and our own bed where we lie down to sleep at night. So there's this collapse of otherness, of a separation, when we move backwards into an allowance of the peace, which is so deeply part of who we are. This peace is part of who we are long before we have an idea of who we are or an image of who we are. It's even here long before we have a feeling of who we are. Not only that, but it's because of this peace, which is almost self-identical to the existential feeling of being alive. Because of this peace, we have a sense of being. Because of this peace, we are able to think anything. It doesn't matter if it's busy mind or whether it's a meditative mind. It's all made possible because of this infinite expanse of peace. inside the thoughts, around the thoughts, behind the thoughts, before the thoughts, and after the thoughts. It's always there, but for some reason we lose this resource in believing that somehow there's something more stable that we can grasp hold of. So to some degree, it's a training, and meditating online together in this way really helps to consolidate in that peacefulness. It helps us to fall back deeper into it without needing, out of stress or habit or reflex, to grasp at a thought or to push away something which has to be gone before we can feel peace, or to release the attachment we have to some kind of negative self-image. And I say negative self-image because a lot of how the way we view ourselves is constructed is in a very limited form with very little possibilities, very little freedom. So that's quite a negative self-image. If we decide through our minds and based on the contractions in our feeling that we only have the possibility to fulfill a certain quality and not others, that we are rubbish at this, that we are, because of our gender, only able to do this, that we should be silent, and that this is forever. If we crowd ourselves with limitations in order to build a sense of personality, then it's an incredibly negative self-image. Even the most positive self-image is a negative self-image. In a way, any self-image is negative, because the more true self isn't caught in time. It isn't caught in the story of I was a child and then I grew up and then I got older. It's not caught in the 24-hour clock. It's not even caught by the rhythms, the natural rhythms of our planet. It can enjoy them, but it's not caught in them. It's not punished by them. Our true self isn't caught in space. You know, bodies can only do a certain amount of stuff. And as they get older, they can do less. And if they smoke a lot, they can do even less. I can witness this. But the space we give ourselves in terms of feeling, in terms of allowing love to move through us without any borders, allowing peacefulness to spread into the body and out again into the planet, to move. The space we give ourselves just to breathe in naturalness, in joyfulness. All of this is limited by self-image, by this construction of a person that somehow we got bullied into believing we are supposed to be. It's not who we are. And the more we meditate and fall back in this sense of peacefulness, in the quality of peace, the more we become unleashed from those restrictions, from those limitations, from that prison, in a way. The conscious survivalist mind would have us believe that peace can only be here if there is no conflict, if I feel okay, if I'm relaxed. And this is a bit of a paradox, because relaxation brings peace, but if peace can't be here until I'm relaxed, then we're going around in a catch-22. I will only feel peace when I relax. But then to relax, you need to feel peace. So there are very many short circuits in the programmed mind in which we rob ourselves of the peace which we are. And that one of the key short circuits is to say, it's either or there's peace or there's not. Peace is the opposite of war. As long as there's conflict, there can't be peace. And I don't mean conflict in the world, although we do project it out into the world. I mean conflict inside ourselves. Stress, discomfort, any kind of suffering, physical pain. When we drop a level out of the thoughts. It doesn't mean that the thinking can go on as much as it likes, but when we move our attention to the heart, to the level of being, to the level of just being nothing in a way, just being without a name, without an identity, without needing to be anything other than what we are now, then the formula of and comes forward. We can be at peace with our own suffering. We can be at peace with our entanglements. We can be at peace with our limitations. We can be at peace with whatever is coming forward in any moment. It's an and situation. The only difference is that peace that never leaves us. We can't get rid of it. It's always here. We begin there, we end there. It's there in the middle, it's there in between. It's always here. The contractions of feeling, the suffering, the entanglements, this changing all the time. It comes and goes. And we try to grasp hold of that which is changing rather than resting in that which doesn't change and letting the changing move through us. Just being able to rest in this peace. So when we say in peace we release, we don't mean we chuck stuff away and lock ourselves up in a psychic monastery. What it means is that we add to the situation ourselves. We add ourselves, our true selves, our true presence to whatever situation is arising, and let that situation or those circumstances arise and play out through this great peace, which is a deeper resource and a fundamental resource, which is anyway here of who we are. It's simply allowing what else is here beyond the attachment, the entanglement, the suffering. It's an and configuration. The moment we move from thought to feeling, the moment we stop thinking it out and trying to solve problems of thought with thought, and we begin to feel what it is to feel anything. Whether it's a physical sensation of comfort or discomfort in the body, or whether it's a feeling of stress in the emotions, or whether it's just an abstract feeling of constriction, we allow ourselves to feel it. There's immediately a kind of space around it. We're moving back into this peace. Even right here, in that moment, we begin to move back just through the very agreement to allow whatever is to be. Now, it's not like we suddenly decide, okay, the peace is already here, I bring peace. And it's not like it's always possible to let go of an entanglement and attachment and to add peace to the situation. That can become an abstract notion. Okay, let me put my peace face on and let me bring peace into this situation. Rearrange emotions and let's create some peace here. Peace is never created. It's extremely creative, but we don't create it. We don't need to. That's like saying we created ourselves. It's like saying we conceived our own bodies. It doesn't work like that. Peace is here anyway. And the key is to know the way and the many ways in which to move in and out of peace. Meaning it's totally okay to get lost in a rage and to go all the way with our anger or with our emotion or with our desire or with any feeling which is emerging. It's totally okay as long as we know and we train ourselves to be able, when we feel that we're grasping, to let go, to put it back in its place, to let the fish back into the river. It's knowing the way back which is the most important part of this, because we are here to live. We are here to entangle. This will happen, but nothing really reaches fulfillment, and suffering can be added on suffering if we don't know how, when we pick things up, to let them fall back again into their place, whether it's inside ourselves or outside of ourselves, or both and neither. So there's some really simple, obvious, almost childish ways to invite the connection to peace. And one of them is remembering a time that we felt really peaceful, an atmosphere of peace, recalling an atmosphere of peace and asking ourselves, how does that feel? What is this feeling of peace? What is it? How does it really feel, peacefulness? It can be an experience in a church, on Christmas night. It can be an experience in nature. It can be an experience after sex. That's often very peaceful. It can be an experience of peacefulness after there's a very strong, magical presence of peace when a chapter of our learning comes to a close, when something's done. It can be almost irrational. The mind couldn't figure this out, but this feeling of peace comes and we just know it's done. It's complete. There can be a feeling of peace sometimes in falling asleep at night, coming home to the depth of ourselves in the incredibly important dimension of sleep. There can be an otherworldly sense of peace at funerals of people that we love, which doesn't seem to belong to us or to the ones we've lost or to God, but comes down like a great subtle blanket of calming, of okayness. And when we recall a memory and we ask the feeling, we ask with our feeling, we feel through it, what is this feeling of peace? How does it feel? Can I relax into it? Can I expand into it? Then the peace is already open, the channel is open. We're already channeling peace into our bodies, into our environment. And channeling peace of itself, it breeds more peace because it's so much part of our purpose here to bring through the physical these non-physical, subtle aspects of who we are, to bring them right through the physical into the foreground, softly, 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 to bring peace into the body, to let it move through us, let it move through, in the first place, the channel of our senses where we experience it, through our fingertips, through our feet, through the feeling of the air on the face, through our steps when we walk, through a busy city or through nature. This peace is always wanting to be channeled into the world through whatever means it's available. It's so much and so worthwhile as a healing agent. In the first place, directly for our own psychology and our own state of being and our own physical bodies, but immediately, right here at that same moment, also for those around us, because there isn't really a separation. So after that pulpit episode, we will maybe move towards a guided meditation, which Bart is here, home from Holland, and everywhere else that he goes, which he will give for us. So if you could find a place which is comfortable, in the body. You don't have to have the camera on you if you would prefer not. And I will move. I will hand the space, expand the space to include our beloved here.
Welcome.
You have to be a bit louder.
So if you could sit or lie down. As relaxed as possible. And then I would like you to bring your attention to the physical body. And bringing your attention to the physical body, I'm sure that some areas really feel comfortable and some areas don't feel comfortable at all. And just allow both to be as they are right now. Just be attentive to it, to what's going on inside your own unique physical body. So maybe you could bring your attention, your consciousness awareness to your hands. And just try to sense what's going on inside your physical hands. And maybe you can also become aware of what's happening outside your physical hands. And maybe you can become aware what's happening inside and outside the physical hands at the same time. And now we're going to use our imagination a little bit. You could just imagine lying in the green grass on a summer day in a meadow. You can hear some birds singing in a near distance. And a soft wind is moving over your body. You can smell the grass and some of the flowers which are growing in the grass. And when you open your eyes, you can see the clear blue sky above you. This deep, clear blue sky. And you feel surrounded by this deep blue color. And feeling surrounded by this deep blue color, a feeling of spaciousness and peace is coming forward. And you feel how your body is relaxing a little bit more deeply into this atmosphere of peace. And how tension, wherever in your physical or around your physical, start to release into the peace. And slowly, step by step, you allow yourself to dissolve into this space of peace. Noticing that with every breath you breathe in peace and you breathe out peace. Noticing that the peace inside is meeting the peace outside, is becoming the peace inside, is becoming the peace outside. Till we are all at peace. Till we are in peace together.
And so if we could softly bring our awareness to 3 in-breaths and out-breaths. Just take your time to consciously breathe in and to release the out-breath. Letting those 3 breaths gently bring us back into normal waking consciousness. And try not to cut off from the meditative state as we open the eyes. Try to bring the meditative state into the opening of the eyes, into the normal. It goes on. It's not left behind. We're just adding to it the computer screen and the context, just adding to this peacefulness. We're not closing out the peacefulness. It's still here waiting, here for us, whether or not we know it or feel it. It's always here. So we have some time for questions or for sharing or anything else. If you put up, if you make a sign or say something in the chat box, then I will unmute you if you want to speak. I think that's best because it avoids the interference of background sounds, which like vacuum cleaners and washing machines, which we tend to get if we leave everybody unmuted. So if you want to ask a question, you can just say hi into the chat box.
I don't know how to check box.
Oh, the chat box is at the bottom. If you glide your mouse down to the bottom of the screen, you'll see a little speech bubble that says chat. And then just like Skype, it's possible to type, or you can wave. That's also possible, but not everyone's got a camera. So in the meantime, we had some questions sent in since last month's Zoom meetup. One of the questions that came forward was, how is it possible, I won't read the whole question, but how is it possible to get free when there seems to be so much, so many trauma tunnels, so many contractions, so much affliction, both inside and outside in the environment, where it doesn't seem possible to come to a place which is outside of this web of contraction. The most clear response that came to me on reading that, and it was from two different people, phrased in two different ways, but the same question was, the most immediate reflection was, my goodness, you've seen it. You've seen this land of illusion, this land of Maya. You've seen, my God, there is so much mess here in me. How can I be free? That's a step inside. Just that perception, that seeing, oh, this form of me is a total mess. It's so many traumas, so broken, so many contractions. It's a total mess. How can I fix it? So just in seeing that truthful perception of the standard human condition, it's not exceptionally bad. This is normal. What's amazing is that the ability to see it from the inside and to say, oh, I am a fucked up mess. This is amazing because you're not the one, you're no longer the mess the moment you're looking at it. You know, when you look at a room and it's a whole wreck and the spaghetti on the ceiling, you know, we have 7 children, so often we look at our living room and it's a total disaster zone. The moment we see it, it's not that we become the living room, that the living room is what we are. It's a space. It's a space that we move in and out of. It's a space that, in allowing it and coming to a kind of realistic appraisal of the situation, it's still possible to move through with joy. If that possibility to move through that messy living room with joy wasn't there, then cleaning would be a nightmare. How could you clean it and then with joy? How could you clean it with peace? If seeing the mess in the living room was an incredibly shameful perception, it's loaded with shame, then we would clean it with shame. And so what we're doing is embedding shame into every scrubbed surface and every peeled off bit of spaghetti. So in that moment of perception of ourselves as a mess, we are already free. That's the place to go, the one that sees. The one that sees, and the more we fall back into the one that can see the forms of who we are, which are always broken and always a kind of collage of bits and pieces borrowed from our grandmothers and from our environment and from our heroes, and, you know, bits of stuff that other people said that we say back again. It's always a collage, but it's not who we are. It's just the tools we have through which to express. So the moment we see it's not who we are, we have the freedom to use it according to what's most needed, what's most worthwhile. We have the freedom to channel into it whatever feels the most needed from the source of ourselves, that which we've got a true positive feeling connection with, whether it's freedom or peace or purity or innocence or care. We're no longer caught in the contraction. That's the chance. That's the moment. Sometimes when we seem to be most broken to ourselves, we are so deeply on our way to freedom. You find a person who thinks that they are the business, they are so cool, they are so fixed, they are so marvelous. You see somebody in a kind of prison. And these bubbles sooner or later will pop, not that it's nice to know that. No form defines who we are. And no form makes us bad. No contraction, no affliction. We suffer our lives, but it doesn't mean that that's who we are. The experience of suffering itself arises out of something deeper, which is itself free of suffering. Otherwise, suffering would have no existence. And of course, suffering isn't private. We suffer the stuff in our form, not on our own behalf. We suffer it on behalf of the whole sea of illusion, on behalf of our mothers, on behalf of our fathers, on behalf of our children, on behalf of the collective trance. We're not private or special or alone in our suffering. These emotions of fear and stress and anger, these are collective fields. The best thing we can do is expand inwards and allow the peace to be there at the same time. And peace doesn't try and fix stuff. Peace agrees to let it be alive, rather than contracting it and holding it tighter and tighter, which actually adds suffering to suffering. Do you have anything to say about being shocked with contractions and traumatized?
No, not right now. Let's finish.
So, does anyone else have any questions or anything they want to say? Shall I just unmute everybody and be done with it?
I think so. Anna wants to say something in your own.
How do you know? Hello. Hey. Okay, just a second. Okay, we can hear you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Great, super. Hello, Georgi and Bart.
Hey.
Hi, Anna.
Hello. Thank you very much for being here. Oh, something is going wrong. Are you still here?
Yes, we can hear you.
Because I cannot see you anymore. So I hope something will work.
Yeah,
okay, yeah, I can see you again. What you were saying about the contractions and the seeing, which is great. I mean, I'm here. I know I'm here. I am this ever-present, quiet, no thing, where no name exists yet, but it comes forth like everything. And that's wonderful to know. And I'm always here. I know that too. And I observe everything. But sometimes, even though I know that this here, the here that I am, manifests even as contraction and even as pain and even as everything, it's indivisible. It still seems sometimes like two worlds. It's when I'm really coming from here, from peace, the contraction in my body does subside, it relaxes, and then it even sometimes is not there. It's totally gone. So it has to do with, am I leaning back home and here, or am I contracting back into the idea of limitedness? And so sometimes it's so tempting to think that here-ness, what I really am, is able to heal the contraction for good. and because the contraction hurts. And I know what it is like to be without contraction. But there is this old stuff in my system that is there. So the only thing I can do is accept it, but something within doesn't want that. It knows what it is to be free of it. Free from all trauma, free from pain, free from contraction. But it's in my system as long as it wants to be.
Yeah.
And that sometimes makes it feel so much like two worlds. Do you see where I'm getting from?
Yeah.
Because when I know this here-ness, and even know that it's one big whole, it's indivisible. I don't know. I know when peace steps forward, it's so calm and it's so spacious and love and beauty and everything.
Yeah.
And then the old residues in my body, you know?
Yeah.
So I sometimes feel that stuff because it hurts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe you have some comment on it.
So,
Maybe not.
The first comment is that, you know, our life goes by in a second. In no time we are free. And we're out of this sea of illusion, the sea of contraction, the sea of suffering. And we have a serious break.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
who knows what happens after that? I don't want to go into
Yeah.
but
Mm-hmm.
like nothing, like the next now, the next now, the next now. We are in that moment where we're saying we're coming to resting in peace, also from the physical, and a lot of contractions are held in the physical. But for you, you've come to a space where you really are beginning to rest and consolidate in the non-dual.
Yeah.
And that makes it look like there's two.
Yeah.
There is this non-dual space, the holy space, and then there's all this shit out, you know, and it can
Well,
seem
it's not so difficult with sadness and even fear. I can sort of be with that and be with that, but the contraction that gives that physical pain daily, that's the toughest. You know,
so
to rest in that.
So the healing effect of peace on a contraction is that it begins to peel off the layers of the contraction. So in a way, and part of that is a pendulation between the contraction and between the freedom and the healness. Like every out breath in a way. And in breath is a pendulation. So it peels off the layers. So it's worth considering if this layer of agenda to get rid of it is not a deeper, more subtle layer of the contraction. And to blend with that feeling, the feeling sense of wanting to get rid. Because that's a contraction, that's a contracted feeling. This agenda
that's
to be
what I'm more and more actually what's happening, that every time I catch myself with resistance towards something, I turn around and I look at it. And I look and I stay and I look and I stay and mostly it's totally empty. You know, there's also
a refinement, which is to allow the resistance and to feel with curiosity the feeling emotion of resistance. So it's not the thing that you're resisting which is important, it's the resistance itself.
I understand.
Which is interesting. To allow resistance is a refinement which can be quite magical.
I can imagine. I will find space in contraction.
It doesn't mean the resistance can't be there. We need resistance. It's natural, but it liberates the movement of resistance and allowance to move a step behind it.
To be alive and to exist.
We all have every right to resist. The point is that it should be a freedom, not an obligation, not a reflex.
But it's beautiful what you said. The more the here-ness is present and steps forward. I mean, it's I'm looking from it, and I'm aware of that. You know, the more sharp the residues of contraction seem. You know, it's like as if the lights turned on. Great.
And in that sense, it can feel like we're going backwards because it's like you turn on the lights in the room and then you see what's there, and it's like, oh, you know, I thought
you see. Finally, so you see the spaghetti on the ceiling.
Exactly. It's actually spaghetti on the ceiling. Eventually, it falls off by itself. It dries.
That's actually a beautiful remark, because that's my sense that the more I rest here and the more I'm aware I am already here, the more that will take care of anything that is needed to take care of.
This is true.
So that's the only thing to do. Like so to say, do. Is only more and more and more rest here and think, I'm already here. I'm this. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we will close for tonight unless somebody else is desperate to say something.
Somebody else desperate? Yeah.
Wants to share. I will unmute everybody for our last moments. What the boss says. Okay.
So nice, we can hear each other at last.
Yay.
Bless you all. Bless you
Thank you
all.
so much for sharing this
Oh,
moment.
really? Thank you so much. Yes. Yes.
So, in not too long, there will be again a Zoom meeting.
The last Thursday of the month, so it will be the last Thursday of November. I
Yeah.
will change the dates on the event pages.
We hope to see you then again.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you all for coming and sharing.
We love you.
Thank you for being.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.